Welcome to my weekly Story World Meditation live stream. This happens on every Saturday, where I'll tell you guys more about what this meditation or brain training system is about, and go through one session with you guys so you can see how it works and feel for yourself. And to me, I don't do 3-hour sessions straight like every day, but I actually, in real life, I do like 1 hour when I wake up, 1 hour before I sleep, and 1 hour around 6 p.m. Okay, so I split them up in the usual daily life. But at least once a week, I like to do like one stretch, 2 or 3 hour stretch, to really test my brain to see if it can maintain the state that I want it to maintain for an extended period of time. And I find that whenever I do like 2 or 3 hours stretches, I really get energetically rejuvenated a lot. So in fact, after a session like this, I could go without eating for a few days. 2 days, average about 2 days I don't have to eat, because my my energy just flows so well, and my brain is so used to being the real world rather than in the story world, so it's always in peace and bliss, the peace beyond understanding, as stated in the Bible. So yeah, let's see. Let's get this set up. Okay, so yeah, once again, welcome to my weekend meditation session. So this session happened as a result of a request by one of my viewers and friend, you know, that he suggested that I should actually show my meditation, and that's because he kind of understood how big a role meditation play in my life to result in the quality of life that I'm getting today, and the result of me being able to do everything I do in life itself comes a big part from all these practices. Because without this foundation, I won't have the peace and stress management skill to live the kind of lifestyle that I do. I probably live the most stressful lifestyle in the world, because I have the most stressful job in the world as a professional options trader, and I have the most stressful lifestyle in the world because I've been roaming the world for 18 years without a home. All I call a home is just 2 suitcases, very minimal stuff. That's all I have for 18 years. No parents to turn to, no friends to turn to, going from country to country. Yeah, those of you who have been with me on my channel for the last few years would know. Okay, so a large part of how I'm able to do this is it comes from this inner strength. And where does this inner strength come from? Come from all these practices. It's not genetic, it's not natural, it's not that I'm born different. No, it's just that over 18 years of going through the ups and downs of life, going through very bad situations, very stressful situations where I have no help and enemies all around. Even here in Turkey, I got severely injured, had to stop my Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu training. And not only did I not have any help from anybody, I made a lot of enemies who are out to hunt me because of this. And I have to survive. And I had to put all this aside and put all this stories and hatreds and stuff aside and focus on the real world, which is peace and love. If I don't have if I don't have the practice that I have today, I would say I wouldn't even be able to survive in Turkey all this while. I would have left at least 6 months ago when all these things happened. When I got injured, when I started getting hunted down by people who hate me here in Turkey. Yes, people hate me here in Turkey because of my injury. Okay, because they think that I'm trying to defame the person who actually injured me. Right now I need surgery to get well, and I become the victim of their hatred. If I allow things like, if I live in that world and become bitter, I wouldn't be able to continue staying here in Turkey and enjoy everything that you guys see I enjoy every day here in Turkey, right? So how do you actually not participate yourself in the drama of the story world and focus on the real world? What is the real world? The real world is this. Right now, looking around me, this wall, this floor, this walls here, and the sound of someone walking far in the distance, the chill in the autumn air. This is the real world. There's no enemies here. There's no bad president here. There's no COVID, disease, disaster, riot, war, death, nothing. This is the real world. All the other things, I'm not saying they don't exist. They might, and they might exist, but it's all only a story in my head. That's what I call the story world. Even the people who hate me here in Turkey, are they here right now in the real world, my real world? They're not here. So their hatred against me, whatever they're doing against me, behind me, is all in the story world. You see, I don't make an identity, I'm such a poor thing, I don't live in that story world. I'm such a poor thing, I'm such a victim, every day I'm so bitter. No, to me that's the story world, and this is the real world where it's always beautiful. There's no stress, there's no bad things happening. But it's not natural to really get to this state. You only get to this, your brain has to be trained to rid itself from the story world in order to inhibit this real world. And that takes training because it's not natural. Your brain likes to inhibit the story world. Why? Because it created the story world. And the story world allows you to play a character in that story world. So you're as good as playing an RPG game. For those of you who are familiar with desktop RPG or computer RPG games, you're literally playing an RPG game with your life right now. You're not even living in the real world. You're living in the story world as a character in the story world. That, my friend, is the problem. And that, my friend, is the source of all your problems and all your stress. Because the real world right now, as I show you in just a few minutes ago, there's no stress in this real world, right? And so you need to train your brain to literally train your brain to be able to do this. It's not natural. That's why I don't like to call this a story world meditation. Because when you talk about meditation, it's like a going into a trance or going into some imagination to forget the world. No. That does nothing for you. That only gives you like a short duration of distraction away from so-called stress and your story world. But after your meditation, you return to the story world and the whole drama continues. You get no real benefit from so-called meditation. That's why I don't like to call this a meditation. I like to call this a brain training session, where we are not getting lost in some imagination. We are not going into a trance. We're training our brain to be 5,000% more active than usual, more awake than usual, more in the real world than usual. And when your brain gets trained over time to do this habitually, when it becomes a habit, even when you're not seated here, when you're walking, when you're doing your work, your brain will not habitually stay in the story world where it's all stress and problem. Your brain will gradually, habitually inhibit the real world. I mean, to those of you who have not get a feel of this before, it may sound ridiculous. It may sound ridiculous, like this is the real world. It's all full of stress and flow. How can I say I reject this? If I reject this world, I'm rejecting reality. This is the exact opposite delusion what most people have today. They call their story world the real world, the reality. everything is just a story in your head and they call it the reality. No, the reality is always very simple. The reality is this mat I'm sitting on here right now and looking at these four walls, and there's nice autumn wind coming in. There's no bad things happening, there's no stress, and this moment I'm not getting older, I'm not getting younger, I'm not getting sick, nothing. This moment is always of peace, absolute no stress, absolute beauty. And it's not natural and it's not normal. You have to train your brain to do this. So yep, since nobody's talking, nobody's interacting with me, I'll just get on with it then. For those of you who wants a step-by-step, who wants to know step-by-step how this thing works, please refer to my video on the story world meditation and brain training system. You can find that video on my channel, okay? I like to start with Moxo. This is the ancient samurai Moxo meditation, where we imagine all the energy of the universe gathered onto this one point at the navel. What this Moxo does is to rip your brain away from the story world and center your brain in this spot here, and therefore get the meditation started. Remember, the first half an hour or so of the meditation is what I call the turbulent period, where you're literally your brain is fighting against you, your body is fighting against you. Your brain is saying that I need to do something else, your body is saying that it's not comfortable. Okay, you can adopt any posture you like. Basically, you can even do this. Okay, it doesn't matter, right? What matters is focus your attention. And then step 2, we want to open our ears 5,000% and hear every single thing that's happening around us. Yes. No going to sleep. No getting lost in your story world. You're aggressively training your brain to be in the real world by listening to every little sound around you. Remember, the first half an hour is going to be the turbulent period, but once you get past the first half an hour, your brain stops fighting you because it say, oh gosh, you're not listening to me, I give up. Your body stops fighting you because it settles into a good position and starts to get comfortable. That's where the real meditation starts. That is why this system, I recommend at least a 1 hour session a day. Anything less than half an hour, honestly, you're still in the turbulent state, fighting your brain and fighting your body, so you're not getting the full benefit, right? So now, as your awareness settles into Moxo, start to listen to everything around you. I hear someone walking about 2 stories above me. This is the real world. Someone talking in the very far distance with somebody. This is the real world, not the story that you tell yourself every day. See how different the real world is from the story world? In the real world right now, I can hear my computer cooling fan slowly turning down. A car is passing by, not so far away. I like to hold my head slightly tilted upwards so that the weight is centered down the neck and the spine. You may ask, what's this fan here doing? This is not only a traditional samurai ornament, but it reminds myself to keep my spine erect. Why should your spine be erect? So that you don't fall asleep. Okay, everything in this system is very practical. When I start to slouch, I feel this thing pushing against my rib cage, so that will remind me to get upright again. There's a car screeching to a stop. It's very quiet autumn afternoon here in Istanbul. Another car screeching to a stop not so far away. This is why you want the environment you practice in to be wild, brightly lit, and noisy with a lot of things happening. So again, this is completely opposite from traditional meditations systems, where you want quiet place, you want not to be distracted from whatever things you are imagining in your head. This is literally training your brain to do the opposite. So from time to time you will hear me describe what I'm hearing, just so to tell you that this is how it works. Otherwise, you see me just sitting here, you don't know what's going on. And you don't even have to be seated, you can be standing. And in the upcoming video where I show you stage 2 of this system, you can be walking, you can be doing Tai Chi. This is not a passive system. This is an aggressive and active system of training your brain to inhibit the real world rather than the story world. I hear a man talking in the distance. I'm still fighting my body is still twitching here and there. This is normal for the first half an hour. I can hear the lift in the building coming up. I can feel the vibration on the floor. I can hear a scooter is horning. I can feel my brain and my body settling down right now. A man talking on the phone in the very far distance. As you get higher and higher level into this system, you can start to do this in quieter and quieter surroundings, where you can hear very small sounds like a leaf dropping to the ground. Yes, in this system it's completely opposite, where quiet environment is for high level training and noisy environment is for beginner training. The quieter it is, the more awake and the more aware you need to be to hear the small sounds that's happening in the real world around you. Remember, we are not here to just de-stress for 1-2 hours and then return to the stressful story world. No. We're here to train our brain to to get out of the story world once and for all, so that even if we are not meditating, we're not stressed, and we're always in the peace beyond all understanding of the real world. You can open your eyes to break the story going on in your head. If you feel like your story is playing in your head again, that's when you open your eyes, allow light to ram into your head, give you a jolt and jolt out of the story world. This is why you want a brightly lit environment, not a dark environment. Again, totally opposite from traditional meditation systems. Once you're back in the real world, look around the real world. Once you're back in the real world, that's when you can close your eyes again and open your ears. I need to set my alarm clock. If I don't, I lose track of time literally, and if I don't set the alarm, I could go on 4 hours, 5 hours, 6 hours, and I won't even know. I hear a car in the not so far distance horning. Another car horning back at it and speeding away. Scooter passing by, and a car screeching very slowly to a stop. My whole building is so quiet on this weekend. I hear the very soft humming of my computer cooler fan. Kids talking in the not so far distance. Scooter passing by. The activities that people do to de-stress, like going to the movies, playing a sport, playing video games. In essence, what is going on is that they are distracting their brain from the story world. And they feel relief in those few hours that they get distracted from the story world. Now you don't even have to engage in those activities and spend that kind of money or time or energy, and also create new bad connections if you are not aware, by just coming into this meditation system You're doing the exact same thing, getting away from the story world and experiencing that relief and peace. And the good thing is, it doesn't end here. You're training your brain to set up this new habit of living away from the story world, and that carries into everything else that you do in life. So the more you do this, the more peace and the less stress you will experience in daily life. And that is the goal. The goal is daily life, not this 1 hour or 2 hours. The goal is a dramatic transformation in your paradigm of life, not just a 1 hour, 2 hours stress relief session. I can hear the Islam Quran reading in the distance from the mosque. My computer cooling fan kicking up and winding down again. And a car with very noisy radio passing by. Once you're settled and centered, see this car? I bet you can hear it too. It's not a distraction. It's an anchor to the real world. In this real world right now, a car with noisy sound system is passing by. And that's the real world. It's not a distraction. It is the real world. And it anchors you to the real world and help you not drift into the story world. Once you feel centered and you stop fighting your brain and your body, this is where I like to change to the ninja hand position. There are a few hand positions and hand signs in this system. Please refer to the instruction video in my channel. Car is passing by. Another car is on. So as you can see, this is not a so-called peaceful meditation. You're aggressively so-called forcing your brain to be listening to everything that's happening around you, which makes up the real world. to train your brain to train your brain to make the habit of being in the real world rather than the story world. The story world is hell and the real world is paradise. I can even feel every of my heartbeat, the movement of my internal organs, how my blood flow is changing as I change my hand sign, which change the energy flow within my body. I can even feel a growing tension on my third eye in between my eyebrows. All these are just part of the real world that I'm experiencing right now. What they mean is of no consequence. You want to hear everything and feel everything that's happening right now. Another car passing by, screeching to a stop. A dog barking, sounds like a small dog. I can hear the very soft humming sound of my refrigerator. I'm using this hand sign to increase my focus. Small dog is still barking. The leaf in my building just went down. two horns. Su- suppose you can hear these two horns. They are not distractions. They clearly remind me and anchor me back into the real world rather than drift into the story world. So loud sounds are good in this system. Loud sounds, even in everyday life, always jolt you out of your story world, like you suddenly awake, even though you will never sleep. They awake you from the story world, where all the pain and suffering happens. This is why a lot of kids like to wear headsets with very loud music. It keeps jolting them out and away from the troubles of the story world to help anchor them in the real world. But of course, that leads to them building another story world out of the music. But that's another thing altogether. This is why in this system, we don't use any music for meditation, because music do not help you to enter the real world, but instead it builds another story world, which is more complex to explain. A car playing Turkish music passing by. Car screeching to a stop. As you get more and more settled, you start to be able to hear sounds from further and further away, expanding the scope of your real world. And you start to be able to hear the sound of your own body. Your stomach telling you if it's hungry or not. Your body telling you if it needs water or not. Your energy telling you whether it needs to be expanded or kept. There's a persistent sharp grinding sound, very very soft in the background. I don't know what that is, but it's there. As you can see, I look like I'm asleep, but I'm actually 5,000% more awake and more aware than usual of everything in the real world, and not one iota of energy in the story world. A street cleaning car passing by. The leaf in my apartment coming up. Feel the vibration in the ground as well. Someone getting out of the lift. About 2 stories above. He's talking. The leaf is going down again. Cars reaching to a stop. Scooter horning. Meditating like this is better than any of the distractions that you use, like gaming, online gaming, or other sports or movies or whatever. It's because just sitting here You add no new story to your story world, such that after the activity, you don't feel more burdened because your story world got larger from the temporary distractions. Here, we're doing the same thing of getting away from the story world, but we're not adding to the story world, such that even after the session, you get the same stress relief and distraction from the story world, which sadly a lot of people call the real world. They call the story world the real world, the reality. To them, getting distracted, having a pastime is a way to distract themselves from so-called reality, when what they are really doing is distracting themselves from the story world, the real world, the reality, which is everything we hear around me right now. The floor that I'm sitting on right now is always peaceful, has no problems from which you need to hide from or distract from. So this is the completely opposite of what people think is reality. The big delusion is thinking that the story world is reality, and you need to distract yourself from so-called reality through all kinds of pastimes and time-wasting and money-wasting activities, which offers merely temporary distraction while at the same time adding to the story world, which makes going back to the story world all that much more painful. Can you imagine? Can you remember when you last finished your last vacation and you have to go back to work? Can you remember last weekend, Sunday night, where you remember you have to go to work on Monday? It just makes going back to the story world all that much harder. But not if you get away from the story world using this meditation, or what I like to call brain training system. You add nothing more to your story world and establish a good habit of being in the real world, where there is the peace beyond our understanding. I'm changing my hand sign right now. For what all these hand signs mean, please refer to the story world meditation video that I made on my channel. All these hand signs help you get deeper into each stage of the meditation. particularly noisy truck just passed by. Two men talking in the very far distance. Happily. The cooler fan of my computer kicking up again. It's a good thing because it provides a jolt to jolt you out of the story world if the story world creeps on you. Sometimes it creeps on you so quietly, a little toho at a time, you don't even feel it. And before you know, you're completely lost in the story world. Sounds like this jolts you out of it and remind your brain to remain in the real world. Just by listening to everything around you at all times full awareness, full aliveness, no sleepiness, no trance, full aliveness in this very moment. And your brain is very smart enemy because sometimes it may give you a thought about the story, about the real world, and you think it's okay to let this thought go because it's about the real world. So you take your attention away from listening to the real world to listening to this thought, and before you know it, you're in it all over again. Not hearing anything, not feeling anything in the real world, completely lost in the story world. When that happens, just open your eyes, allow a jolt of light into your eyes to hit your brain. That stops the story, then you can get back into it again. The small dog is still barking after so long. Small dog is barking sadly. Maybe the owner left it alone at home. In my head, I'm not chanting some mantra or visualizing anything. When you do that, you're literally creating another story world. It's more complex. I'm just looking at black and listening to everything in the real world and feeling everything in the real world, the air, the floor beneath me, even my body, which is part of the real world right now. Hearing everything, inhibiting the real world, the present, the now. Now is the real world. Now is the only real world. I can hear someone's cell phone ringing in the distance. As you become more settled, you begin to hear smaller and smaller sounds further and further away. There's no need to try to relax your body like in those usual typical meditations. In fact, if you are new at this will not be relaxing at all. You will be very, very strenuous because you are forcing your brain to keep listening to everything around you, forcing it to do something that it's not used to do. But once you get it, once you practice enough and your brain gets it, that's when relaxation and peace naturally happens. You don't have to consciously try to so-called relax your body. When you have time and nothing to do, rather than waste time, energy, and money to try to do something to keep yourself occupied, while all the time adding on to your story world and all the stress that's going on in it, you could just sit and enjoy peace in the real world without adding anything to the story world. Sometimes the best thing you can do for the world is to just leave it alone. Car with some Turkish music passing by. The leaf in my apartment is going down and coming up again. You can feel the soft humming on the floor. Some Turkish party music in the not so far distance. Deep is coming back up again. Busy day in the building. There's a feeling of soreness in my right leg, but I won't add the story of what it means to it. It's just part of the real world right now. It's just a feeling that is there. It doesn't have to mean anything. You can interpret that as suffering. You can interpret that as my leg is so tired and change your position. Or you can simply not interpret it at all. Take it as part of the real world and just let it be. No stress, no suffering. Now my body is entering into a sleep mode while the senses are still 5000% awake, hearing everything that is going on. I feel my breathing pattern has entered the pattern that it does when the body is asleep. I can still hear everything in the real world fine. At this stage, it is very important to understand that you're not going to fall asleep, but heighten your awareness even more to hear and feel everything in the real world. The puppy that just barked again in the near distance. Sound of cleaning dishes. When you have nothing better to do, it is always better to just sit. This is also the level of focus and awareness a samurai needs in an actual duel of life and death. You cannot even drift into the story world for 1/2 a second. You can't afford to do that. This is why samurais meditate and focus on the internal well-being so much. Because when it comes to the crunch, this is what counts. And of course, when the stress lowers, cortisol lowers, and anti-aging begins. It's all linked together. Everything you see that I achieve, that I am, is all linked together. Everything is linked. It's not just one thing for this and one thing for that, but that everything is linked to produce this net result. Hear the leaf coming up again and feel the vibration in the ground. I look like I'm asleep. I'm listening to every little sound in the real world. The leaf falling down again. The body can fall asleep, but the senses can be fully awake. Loud noises like this is good. It jots you back out of the story world into the real world. A car from a very far distance. Someone putting something down on the table. false alarm. Feeling everything in my body and hearing everything around me. Just throbbing in my abdominal area. Streams of heat traveling between my two hands and arms. Half morning as you can hear. I was lost briefly in the story world as I opened my eyes to let the light jolt me out of the story world. Observe everything. The cupboard creaking. Streams of heat going up my spine across my back. Cars screeching to a stop. Everything. All these are the real world. And you want to train your brain to stay in this real world rather than in the story world of pain and suffering. The real world of peace, beauty, the peace beyond all understanding. People doing their dishes. There is no time limit to reach for. There is no time to meet. You're not doing a 2 hours meditation. You are just sitting, just meditating. You just am doing this. If you can bring this into your daily life, you won't even feel the frustration and suffering of queuing up in long queues or even have people cut the queue in front of you anymore. Because you're not waiting for something. You just am standing there. Just like you just am sitting here. was briefly lost in the story world, so I opened my eyes to see the real world and break the story world. Remember, in this system of meditation, relaxation is not the pursuit, it is merely the consequence. Just let it happen naturally as you focus on being in the real world. Feel the cooling fans cooling up. Some sharp scraping noise in the distance. And when your energies are so aligned, I haven't eaten anything all day and I don't feel hungry at all. There's no noise in my stomach saying that it needs to eat anything. And my energy is still healthy and running, and saturated energy I can feel around my body. So I know I don't even need to eat anything. So far today, it's almost evening, and my body's energy is still so well attuned. There is no hunger at all. Sound blowing whistle over and over again. Computer cooling fan turning down. Someone doing the dishes. Someone singing in the far distance. Sometimes the best thing you can do for the world is simply to leave it alone. A very chill and comfortable soft autumn wind just blew into the room. The leaf is coming up again. You can feel the vibrations in the floor. can hear the truck, right? Yes, we are not sleeping, actively listening to everything. So bird, strange kind of chirping. You can hear it too, right? I have never heard this before. This must be the most boring live stream anyone has ever seen. Happy party music car passing by. computer cooling functioning up again. Car running, not so far. Remember, you're not only not sleeping, but your senses should be 5,000% more aware than usual. Listening intently to the sounds of the real world around you and the sounds inside your body. All this together is the real world. Nice bird chirping, two birds chirping. The final stage of the storyboard meditation is really to come to a realization that even everything we perceive in the real world happens only in the head, as signals collected by the five sense organs and interpreted in the brain. The brain is ultimately just an organ in a dark skull who has never seen what the real world really is. All experiences about what we think the world is ultimately a mental construct. So ultimately, even the real world is false. This is the ultimate stage of the story world meditation system. That there is a real world here that we are in, but it is not what our sense organs are telling us it is. This is the highest level of the story world meditation. Our perceptions are so limited that even now in this room there's at least 10 to 20 Wi-Fi signals filling up this invisible air that we cannot see, but it's so vibrant and it's so encompassing and we just cannot see it. So does that mean it does not exist? It exists so vibrantly, and you can know it the moment you turn on the Wi-Fi on your mobile phone. This is how limited our perception is, and therefore why ultimately we can never know for sure what the real world looks like or even sound like. This is the ultimate realization of the story world meditation brain training system. So there's 2 hours of meditation, or rather 2 hours of aggressive brain training exercise. You want to let do this to let your blood flow, especially the legs. And this is not the time where you say, "Oh, I'm done." No, this is the time where you should endeavor to carry on this deep sense of being in the real world throughout the rest of the day. That's the whole point. The whole point is not to just feel shook or feel satiated for that 1-2 hours of meditation, but to carry this feeling continuously throughout the whole day. Wow, it's been 2 hours and 25 minutes. Hi everybody who tune in. Say hello so that I know who you are, and I know you're there. How many of you was with me throughout this whole 2.5 hours? Anyone? I see 3 people on, but nobody's talking. Is there anyone who wished to interact with me, ask me any questions regarding what we just did? Anyone? Any questions about the 2 hours meditation that we just did together? How many of you was here right from the very beginning? Let me check the chats. Oh hi Barnard. Wow, so many people. Wow. Hi Tan. Hi Lolo. Hi Wendy. The coffee cup is going to fall over the edge. Yep, that's a story. And you see how that story can catch you up and hold you down all for so long. Hi Jetson. I was fall asleep a bit, wanted to sleep. Yes. The temptation to sleep when you do the meditation is very strong. That's why you need a brightly lit room, and you don't want a very quiet surrounding. You want to have enough noise so that you can really seriously listen to everything that's happening around you. And I'm really so very grateful for all of you who tuned in today to this session. I do this session once a week every Saturday afternoon Turkey time. This is what time is it right now in Turkey? This is up 4:30 in the afternoon in Turkey. This is a Saturday afternoon, beautiful autumn afternoon. And really, on a beautiful afternoon like this where you have nothing better to do, the best thing to do is just sit. Oh, hi Radiant. Walking meditation. Yes, this is a very good question, Radiant. Walking meditation is the second stage of the story world meditation system, which I already made a video about the walking stage, which I'll be posting sometime over the next couple of days. So stay tuned for that. Yeah. Yes, and walking is stage 2 of this system. Not just walking, even Tai Chi. Movement. Movement is the second stage of this system. Very good question. I really love this question. I share. If you guys are wondering where I learned this is from a lifetime of esoteric discipline training, which I got in Singapore, in China, in Korea, and in Japan. From Buddhism from Mahayana Buddhism to Zen to yoga to Kriya to China Qigong to Samurai Moxo meditation taught to me by my sensei, and also Samurai the Aikido 心性独一支 key extension meditation taught to me about 20 years ago. So I take all these different disciplines and filter down to the really core essence I need to solve a very practical problem in the real world today, which is the tendency to suffer in the story world. And so I created this system from my understanding of how we can rip our mind out of the story world and train it to inhibit the stress-free and beautiful real world. I realized that the brain cannot intellectually know how to get out of the story world. It needs to be trained to habitually get itself out of the story world and into the real world. That's my greatest realization so far, that it is not an intellectual thing, that just like your muscle memory, you have to train your brain to perform this function through a specific set of exercise. Oh, you do too. I see. Theravada Buddhism, yes. Theravada Buddhism is perhaps my earliest spiritual discipline, which I learned from a monastery back when I was only 17 years old. I'm 45 years old right now, by the way. So when I was 17 years old, I went to a monastery with a very simple question: what is the purpose of life? From there, I learned the Mahayana or Theravada Buddhism for about 6 months, almost full time. That I was schooling then. So every day after school, I would go back to the monastery and I would sleep in the monastery just to learn this. Did your samurai training give you yes, like I mentioned just now, in my samurai training I learned the Moxo meditation, this, which I use as, if you scroll back to the opening section of this live stream, that's how I start the meditation. The Moxo meditation taught to me by my sensei in Yushinryu, Osaka. I spent about half a year there in Osaka learning this, and it is a great way to focus your energies and your attention into one point. But the whole purpose of the Moxo meditation is focus. That is why I use it as an opening, because this focus is the same focus you need to detach yourself from the story world and come to the real world. This is why samurais do this every day, especially before training or before a real duel. When you are dueling life and death situation, you cannot afford to have your brain drift into the story world for even a fraction of a second. You can die in that fraction of a second. This is why in the samurai tradition, the Moxo is so important. And the essence of the Moxo meditation is really training your brain to inhibit the real world rather than drift off into the story world. And when you're so intently focused on the real world, you can hear everything and you can see everything. So every little movement that your opponent is doing, how the kisaki of his katana is even moving, or even just that slightest fraction of a second of semi, you will be able to detect and launch your attack. This is why this is so important to a samurai, and no samurai is complete without mastery of this discipline. This is why being a samurai is more than just cutting stuff. Cutting stuff is the easy part. The hard part is cutting through the story world and coming to the real world. Oh, very good questions. I really love this discussion. Thank you guys for being with me to do this discussion with me. And even bigger thanks for those of you who actually sat through this 2 hours of meditation with me. I really feel refreshed. If you ask me how I feel after a 2 hour session, I feel completely refreshed, like I just woke up from a long sleep. I feel my energy homogeneously throughout my body. I don't feel hungry or tired or anything. I feel like I can go out there and run a marathon like right now. This is how I feel after 2 hours meditation. I Can you believe it? You guys saw me seated cross-legged for 2 hours, right? But there's no numb or no numb legs at all. No numbness, no nothing. My legs are ready to go. No numbness, no pain, nothing. This is what happens when you get deep enough into the present, the real world, where everything flows perfectly. And therefore your body and your body's energy and your blood flows naturally and perfectly throughout your body. Even as I sit, and if I remember correctly, I didn't move my legs even an inch. I didn't move my legs at all. I changed my hand positions to direct my energies, but I did not move my legs at all. And there is no numbness, no stiffness, no pain, nothing. Let's see. Any closing questions before I finish today's session? I really hope that if you enjoy this session, join me again next week. I do a little discussion before and after the session, just like today. So I'll be able to share with you guys much more. If you are curious about what I did, what am I really doing sitting there, please refer to my video on the Story World Meditation Brain Training System. I don't like the word meditation, because this word meditation gives everybody the wrong idea about what's going on. I like to call it a brain training exercise, okay? Because that's really what you're doing. You're training your brain to habitually go away from the story world and stick itself in the real world. The story world is the hell world, the real world is paradise, right? So check out my playlist on Story World. If you don't know what I'm talking about, what the hell is this guy talking about, what's this Story World thing, please check out my playlist on Story World, where I explain what Story World is, and also I explain the step-by-step of this meditation or brain training system. And I'll be adding on to that playlist with the progressions. This is progression 1. There's progression 2 and 3 and 4. There's deeper and deeper progressions you can get into this meditation and self-awareness system, right? And if you ask me where I learned this from, nobody taught me this. I created this whole system myself through my own practical needs over the decades, and all the different disciplines that I've learned from around the world. I needed to create for myself a very practical system which will allow me to live my kind of life, 18 years without a home and just roaming around the world in so many different countries. Living this kind of life is not easy. It requires a very specific way of managing what's going on in here. And therefore, I need to create my own system to give me this thing that I need to live the kind of life that I'm living right now, right? So yeah, let's see. Yeah, a brain training system, yes. We're training our brains here. We're not going into a trance, going into half asleep, going into some astral plane. No, none of that. We're training our brain, okay? Tan must patent this system. I don't know, but I intend to write a book about this system. I think I posted on my Facebook and Instagram a while ago that I'm looking for a publisher, because really writing this up into a proper system, supported with my experience all over the world, of living all over the world, the unique stress and the unique problems that I run into that result in the creation of me realizing all these things and creating such a system. Wendy, I agree, you could be the next rich guru. If you care to be rich, or you're doing this to be rich, then you'll never reach the real purpose of doing this. then it becomes an act, and then you become a fake guru. 100% you will. That's why all those so-called gurus you see, people dig up a lot of things, and then they all end up badly. Or not just gurus, church leaders, priests, high priests, they all end up badly. When you start to have a worldly purpose or worldly goal for your spiritual practice, you end up very badly. This is very bad karma. If you have the intention to become rich off a spiritual practice, this is the worst karma that you can build upon yourself, and you will end very badly. I'm just putting all this out as a way of surviving my legacy, and just really, as you can see, like lately, I've been posting a video almost every single day, because I suddenly have the feeling or the urge that I need to unload all my experience and all my knowledge and all my understandings into the world right now. I don't know, maybe I'm gonna die really soon, I don't know. Maybe that's why, but subconsciously I have the feeling that I need to offload all my knowledge right now while I still can. Yeah, so really, if I die within the next few months or few years or even few days, I don't know, it might happen. Don't be surprised, because I really feel this sudden urge and impetus to really leave behind all my legacy like right now. Oh, thank you, Jetson. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you all for coming. Thank you. Any final question? If there's no final question, we'll end today's session. What is the main reason for keeping making money? Is to survive. Because I still live in the real world, I still have a lifestyle to maintain. I still pay rent. Okay, so very practical. Nothing I do is like spiritual. My path is always practical spiritual. That you should be able to take care of your practical life, and your spiritual life should be able to blend into this thing very perfectly. That's how I approach this. That's how I created all these things as well. And I do have a family too, so I need to live. I need to keep making money, and I need to also ensure the livelihood of my family. I don't show my family, but I do have a family. Okay. Anything else? But money is not dirty. Okay, money is not a bad thing. All right, money is an enabler. Okay, don't ever think that if you want to follow a spiritual path, then you should like don't care about money. No, money enables you to do all these things. It's very important. What is not okay is the greed for money, where everything that you do, every people you meet, everything that you say are just about trying to make money. That's when it becomes not okay, right? I took a course to learn meditation. Oh, transcendental meditation. Yeah. See, Wendy, the problem is transcendental meditation only relieves your stress during the period that you're doing the meditation. It's basically just distracting your mind away from the story world. But if you're not actively training your brain to inhibit the real world, the moment you finish your meditation, that's the moment your brain goes back into the story world and back into the hell. It does nothing for you unless you intend to meditate 24 hours a day. And that is why my story world system is so powerful, because we're not trying to go into a transcendental state. We're actively training our brain to perform a physical function. The physical function of sharp 5,000% awareness of the real world. And why? Because all your problem and all your stress are in the story world. The real world right now is just this four wall, the autumn breeze, the sounds that I hear, the floor I'm sitting on. There's no problem in this world. There's no problem in this real world. There's no stress in this real world. All my stress are in the story world. the people who hate me here in Turkey, who are still hunting me down, all these things. Yes, all these things are happening to me here in Turkey, okay? But why do I look like I have no stress? Because all these are in the story world. I live in the real world. I don't care about the story world. I only use the story world for practical purpose. This is what this brain training system has enabled me to do. It is not natural, and your brain cannot by knowledge be taught to do this. It needs to be trained to get itself out of the story world and inhibit the real world, right, Wendy? That's why. So radiant, yes, makes sense. I just thought you made it. There's no such thing as enough money. You see, radiant. Economically, inflation is always going on. 20 years ago, when I first joined the Navy, I was from the Navy. We were given the promise of a retirement amount of 300,000 US. At that time, 300,000 US looked like we can live forever, but look at what 300,000 US is today. You can't even buy a house. So life is always moving on. Cost is always going to get higher and higher. This is why today you still need to pay for your Apple iPhone 13. If Bill, who's the app? If those Apple guys, they made so much money, why do you still need to pay for your iPhone 13? Why it should be for free, right? But no, the sad reality of this story world. Even the economic system is a story world. It's a story world created by countless story worlds, as many story worlds as there are human beings. Created this fake story world in which there can never be enough money, which brings me to the point where that if you think money will make you happy, it is going to be a never-ending pursuit. It will never end. Nobody ever reached that point. Some people ask, see, why people like Murdoch, you know, the Ponzi scheme Murdoch guy who is in prison now. Before he started the Ponzi scheme, he was already filthy rich. He started the Nasdaq exchange. Okay, he's already mega rich. Why did he still want more money? Why did he start a Ponzi scheme and cheat hundreds of billions? Why? Sounds strange, right? Why a mega rich guy needs to do that and end up in prison? Because if money is what you think will bring you happiness, if you think money will settle you, it's a never-ending pursuit. You will never come to a point where you say, I'm enough. Never. That is the problem. So after really almost 20 years of experiencing so many different cultures and at all levels of society I have friends in, I saw this so clearly, that money settles nobody. And even more sad is that money sometimes robs you of the life that you want. Like I had a friend who bought his son a new Ferrari. He is a mega rich Chinese guy, and his son got killed in the Ferrari. So he lost his family because he's rich, for no other reason other than because he's rich. Now ask yourself, is that what you want? So I'm not saying money is not good, okay? Earn money, let money come naturally, based on the things that you're giving to the world. But don't make that the pursuit, because you will never end. You will never reach the point where it's enough. And even the sad thing is, you're gonna reach the point where you'll lose everything because of it, even your own family. When I was spending 10 years in China, I knew so many mega rich people, men who lost their whole families because of the things that money allowed them to do. All right. Have you tried? I don't do any substances. Nobody needs to do any substances to get into transcendental states, because your body is already the greatest chemical producing thing in the world. Your body naturally produces LSD as well. The only problem is, do you know how to release it? But the thing is, it's not my pursuit, because ultimately transcendental experiences do you no good at all in your practical everyday life. See, remember, it is the practical everyday life that we are trying to handle here, that we're trying to make better here. So, being in that transcendental state for that period of time, what does it do for you at work? What does it do for you when you're queuing up for a bus and people just cut the queue in front of you and you feel like you're going to get into a fight? What does that do for practical everyday life? This is why I like the samurai style is all about practical. The samurai style is using spirituality to enhance the practical everyday life, which back then for samurai is life and death fighting, and that's their spiritual practice needs to support the moment of swinging the sword, so that I live and you die, you know, or that if I die gracefully and without any attachment. This is practical spirituality. Huh? Okay, let me see. Have you delved into the state, the world? Like I say, Rainer, same thing I covered. Why I say transcendental states don't really help you in your everyday life. So it's actually quite pointless. Even if you go on an astral projection journey, even if you go into your past life regression, so what? What does all this thing do to help alleviate the stress and suffering that you feel on the everyday basis? That's the point. But the story world meditation system tackles this very point, the very point of everyday suffering and stress right at the heart. Huh? Okay, was there a specific reason that made you start meditating? Yes, Radiant, as I shared just now, when I was about 17 years old, 16, 17 years old, actually right from a very young age, I kept having the feeling that I'm just a spirit driving a meat body, and when I look out of my eyes, I literally feel like I'm a person behind my eyes looking out of the eyes. Since very young, I had these experiences, and at about 16, 17 years old, going through high school, I find that there was a day where I realized that I needed to know about the meaning of life. That's when I started. I went to a monastery, a Mahayana Buddhism monastery, to learn, and I told the chief monk that I wanted to know what's the meaning of life. And from then on, that day onwards, for 6 months, every day after school, I'll go to the monastery and I'll spend the whole day and night in the monastery. And from the monastery, I'll go to school. And that's when I first learned all my first spiritual practices. Yeah, and so Radiant, I started not because I had any big problem in my life. I started because of the biggest question in life, which is, what is the purpose of all this suffering? That question became unbearable for me when I was about 16, 17 years old. I had to know. When the money brought me peace of mind, I grew up in a family where money was tight. Yeah, money is good, Wendy. Like I say, I love money. I keep saying that don't mistake what I say for hatred of money. No, we need money. I live 18 years in so many countries away from my own home, you know. I need money. Everybody needs money. See, that's the thing. I'm not saying money is not good. I'm not saying that money is bad. But that if you make money the only pursuit in your life, like so many that I've seen, especially in China, when I was spending 10 years in China, I saw those mega rich guys, how they destroyed their life just because they have money. And not just destroyed their life, they destroyed the life of other people and their own family as well, and kill their own kids as well. Yeah. So that's when it becomes a bad thing, okay? Money itself is not a bad thing. Oh, Ronnie, how long have you been practicing the art of... I have been practicing martial arts actually since very young, since maybe 5 years old. It's a very Asian thing. You see, like, Asians of my era, I'm 45 years old. Asians of my era, we started martial arts training since a very young age. Taekwondo, Kendo, Judo, everything. Like, since young, it's never stopped. All the way to today. And I learned all the and I've been very fortunate to be able to learn like a lot of good martial arts, like in their native country. Like I learned Wing Chun, Hong Yi, I learned Xing Yi Liu He, I learned Luohan Quan, all in China. I learned Kenjutsu, the art of the samurai, in Osaka, Japan. And for Jiu-Jitsu, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, which is a modern sport, I only started since last year. So what's your favorite sport? I don't, actually, if you ask me, my favorite is still Kenjutsu, what I do in Osaka, the art of the samurai sword, art of the katana. That is still my most favorite because of the deep spiritual, because it's not only practical. You know, if you live in New York like I do, you know how practical that skill is to be able to just cut someone down if you need to. Okay, it's not easy, by the way. If I give you a sword right now and ask you to cut someone down in one cut, you may not be able to do it. Most of the time, you're gonna cut and then it's gonna get stuck somewhere in the body, and the guy is gonna stab you to death while your sword is in the body. It's not easy to kill someone with a sword. Okay, it's not easy to kill someone in one blow. So I like Kenjutsu because that is a very practical skill, and two, it is a very spiritual skill. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu to me is just a sport. It's not even a martial art to me. Yeah, it's just a sport. Like, you know, if you see the fact that you guys ask this question, you know something about Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, so I don't have to tell you why it's a sport and not a martial art. Yeah. The original BJJ is a martial art, but the original BJJ is such, like, it's not even quite belt level for the BJJ that we know today, really. The complexity of how this sport has evolved. K guts, squid guts. Oh man. Rubber guts, bunny chokes. My goodness. Wow, 3 hours. So yeah, okay, final question. I want to take final question. What are my thoughts on Singapore? Quite honestly, I've been away from Singapore for almost 20 years, so I don't know what Singapore culture is right now anymore, to be honest. I have to be very honest with you. The things I know about Singapore, it's one generation ago. Since I left Singapore, an entire generation of people has grown up to be adults. The current leadership, the current culture is all foreign to me. When I left Singapore, there was only 3 metro lines, and right now the metro lines are, I don't know how many, 10 metro lines, I don't even know. I don't know Singapore culture right now, so I cannot comment on that. Does quarantine equate to a concentration camp? See, Ronnie, the thing is, when I know what you're trying to get at, the comment that I made. Quarantine itself is not the problem. The problem, like I said, is the process, how we have been ushered. The whole process from checking out in the airport to not knowing where we are going, to be put into somewhere for an unknown period of time, ask where we're going, they're not saying, for how long, they're not saying. That kind of thing makes it feels like being ushered into a concentration camp. That was the context, and I still stand by my thoughts. That was my real feeling. That was how I felt at the time. Yeah. But the quarantine itself, the 14 days is great. The 14 days is great. If you have joined me on my 14 days quarantine live stream, you know how much I enjoyed it. And everybody who comes to my live stream, I think they enjoyed it as well. So, anything else? If nothing else, it's been 3 hours, so I'd just like to thank you guys for being with me, all these very wonderful questions. Please join me again next Saturday, same time, 2 p.m. Turkey time, okay? And yeah, do check out my Story World playlist, and especially those of you who actually did the meditation with me for the past 2 hours. Thank you very much. I hope you benefited from it, right? So see you guys next week. Annyeong.